Welcome to Gold Derby's Meet the Experts panel for film documentaries. I'm Charlie Bright, and I am joined by Traci Curry and Stanley Nelson, the directors of Attica on Showtime, RJ Cutler, the director of Billie Eilish, The World is a Little Bit Blurry on Apple TV+, Robert Greene, the director of Procession on Netflix, Jimmy Chin and Chai Vasarhelyi, who both directed The Rescue, which is currently streaming on Disney+, and Mylan, the director of Simple as Water, which is currently on HBO Max. First question I want to ask, and I want to start with you, Robert. What was it like to find out that you had been shortlisted for an Oscar nomination?
Oh boy. Well, I mean, everything in this process has been about these guys. So it's been really helpful for me on that level of like doing this kind of work, because I don't really overthink anything. I'm just always sort of checking in with the guys constantly. So it was all about explaining to them what this process is going to be like and why I'm doing all this press and why they're doing all this press and why we're going to all these cool things, which now we're doing none of those things. We're doing it all virtually. But it allows me to filter all my emotions through them. So I was just able to call them. It was incredible, actually. I called Doug, Susan, and Bennett, the producers, and Rob Kolodny, who shot the film. We all got on the phone and we just went person to person and called each of the guys and their partners and said, "Hey, we have this news." And now they're just pumped because they've been a part of the process throughout the whole thing. So it's great because I'm not even thinking about it in terms of me and how I feel about it at all. It's all about how they feel, which is great.
And what about you, Stanley?
It's a great honor. I mean, I think one thing that I immediately thought is that more people will see the film, and that's really what's important for us. Is that most people can see the film. So we knew that being shortlisted would mean that more people would see it, and that's a real important thing for us.
And Traci?
I think it was really just icing for me. I mean, I was so grateful to be able to even be a part of telling the story, to have all the people in the film have so much grace, is to be able to share with us what happened for the sake of getting this story told. And so to the extent that any of this gives this story and their experiences a bigger platform for people to understand what they went through, I'm all for it. So I'm just incredibly grateful.
And what about you, RJ?
Oh, I share everybody's. I think we've had common experience. It's a tremendous honor. It's a tremendous honor to be among this group of films. That was something that immediately really excited me. It's great for the team of filmmakers, and for those of us who got caught up in COVID and didn't have festival experience and things like that, or theatrical runs of much substance. The idea that the film will have perhaps a richer, longer life is an honor. It's all just a lovely honor that kind of is separate from the filmmaking itself, as we all really know. But that's okay too.
And Chai, how about you?
Well, it's kind of like a dreadful but hopeful moment, right? Like, it makes me hopeful because it means that people understand how The Rescue is like kind of reminds us of what unites us, right? In a time where everyone seems so divided. It also, like, I believe awards are kind of like magic and unicorns and glitter. And like Jimmy's gonna like be rolling his eyes. Where I'm like, who knows? Like, it's like a black box. No one knows what comes out of it, but you're just always grateful. And then it's like a dreadful, perverse pleasure in that I get to ask RJ, like, what was it like to make a film about a teenage girl? I get to talk about how Robert's got a green, a green lightning thing coming out of one side and like the red on the other side. And we get to have these conversations to talk about real stuff, which especially after the past, 20 months, Like it's rejuvenating. It's like, it's soul nourishing. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're just so grateful. And it's always like we're in the service of our participants, like the people who decide to trust us with their stories. And it makes me really happy to be able to be like, listen, like you put yourself out there and people can hear you.
And Jimmy, I know you and Megan have a very interesting view on this, as you're both Oscar winners. So Jimmy, how did you react to getting shortlisted?
I mean, I think it is being grateful. Chai and I both had that opportunity or recognition, but yeah, very grateful. I think like what RJ mentioned, you know, when you look at all the films, just the number of topics, the ideas, I think as documentary filmmakers, everybody knows what it's like, and there's that camaraderie of knowing that you bleed for these films, and you put a lot of heart into it. So I appreciate all the films on the list. It's an amazing list, and yeah, it's just an honor.
And Megan?
Again, echoing what everyone has said. I mean, none of us make films to win awards. We just would never do what we do for that. But we do make films for people to see them. And there's nothing like this for shining a light. And I think the recognition of the artistry is profoundly important and sustaining to me, that, you know, my peers thought there was something in what my team and I created. And it's validating to the people that you've said, trust me, we're going to share this. It's going to resonate with the world, and we can kind of come back and say, okay, see, your trust was well placed. So there's no downside to this for me. It's lovely.
Next question. The next question I wanted to ask. I want to start with you, RJ. You know, I know that you're all here to talk about your films, but I'm also curious as to, you know, what's impressed you over the which documentaries have impressed you over the from last year?
I've been moved by all of the films that I've seen, and I've seen them all. I think it's an incredible list. I've shared with Megan, Jimmy, and Chai, Traci, and Stanley, and Robert my great admiration for their films. I'm dazzled by the way in which Robert has consistently through his career worked with form and deepened, while breaking out experimentally, has deepened the what documentary is. Stanley is, of course, a national hero and a great legend, and what he and Traci have created is of monumental importance. For crying out loud, we're also myopic about our moment in history. We think that so much of our tragic kind of identity and the things that identify us in terms of racial strife in our history are all about the recent times. And then you realize, you see a film like this and you realize how deeply embedded the crisis of race is in this country, and how much it must be addressed, and how broken so many of our institutions are in kind of telling the truth. Jimmy and Chai, of course, thrill us with their storytelling always, and have created this incredible adventure film that you know, rivals what Marvel is doing in the theaters, and brings us inside something with these characters who you never would have found. And Megan has you know, opens our heart in these incredibly deep ways of observational filmmaking that reveals things I could never have imagined, struggles of deep humanity that refugees are taking on and throughout the world. And it's not just these guys. I mean, it's the whole group of films that we're part of. It's you know, I clearly am an enthusiast for this moment in documentary film. I can't believe it's everybody borrows form, borrows history, is inspired by each other's films and the history of documentary films. It's just I'm grateful that you're asking the question, because it's, you know, it's not about, it's a great time. It's a great time to be part of this community. So there I go. You asked, you got a full answer.
And how about you, Chai?
I don't know. I'm just so grateful that people watch movies and they invest enough to be able to go on this journey with us, because isn't this, you know, it's all about being able to imagine yourself in the life of others. Because if we do that, you know, we're just a little bit more human. And I also say, like, it's incredibly like inspiring for me, or like, you know, like invigorating in a way when I see people reinvent a genre like Robert did. You know, like Procession is something, it's totally different. Like it looks in the way, same with The Act of Killing or other sort of films, like just look at a genre and say, like, it's not enough. And let me, how can I like mess with it and play with it? And it's fun, even though it's in service of something that's incredibly serious and important. But, and, you know, I have to say the same thing about Attica, where like, you know, how do you go into like historical subject matter and bring both a contemporary point of view and someone who was alive at the time? Stanley, I know you're a little bit older than we are, but and so like, I don't know, it's been like this wonderful reminder of why we do what we do. At the same time, like, it's also a reminder of, you know, our work is not done. What else can we do and like push and annoy, and who else can we like, you know, I don't know, irritate, because that's kind of the point, isn't it?
And Jimmy?
I think the one thing that I really was paying attention to this year was just the craft of filmmaking, and how everybody brings something special and different to each story, and you see why the stories resonated with each of the directors and how they shaped the stories and brought them to life. But yeah, I think, you know, there's a deep appreciation. Nonfiction documentary filmmakers, I think, as Megan said, you know, we don't obviously make films for awards. You make films because you deeply believe in telling a story that you feel needs to be told. And so I have deep appreciation for everybody here and everybody on the list.
And Megan, any documentaries that last year that really got to you?
Yeah, I mean, so many of them. And I think a through line that I've been feeling, maybe because our film is so much about this shared, profound, common experience of family, is how much of that sort of filmmakers looking for those points of entry of common experience and making me feel so, I mean, it's sort of so cliche of like, hey, we can all find our point of entry, but in ways with very distinct voices, like films that seem like they have nothing in common. They feel texturally so different, all sort of taking me to this same sort of profound shared human experience in really beautiful and exciting ways. And each one, you know, wanting to sit with it for days afterwards. Not each one on the huge list, let's be honest, but like a good chunk of them. So no, there's just some gorgeous work happening, and it feels like it's coming from really, really profound places of people not just pushing the boundaries of form and doing that and artistically, but also like inside of themselves, sort of digging in emotionally and intellectually. So it's exciting.
And Traci?
Yeah, I agree with what Megan just said. I think one of the things that I really appreciate about the films that I've watched in the last year, and certainly the ones made by all the people here on this Zoom, are that, you know, not only have I felt more informed and enlightened about these stories that I didn't know about, but in different ways, all of these films really open up this window to empathy that I find really personally valuable, especially because we are in this moment in the pandemic where we are intimately aware of how connected we all are. But at the same time, alongside that is this sort of myopia of some people trapped in their individual experiences. And so I just really appreciate the way the films offer that moment of connection and understanding to people and experiences and ways of being that are so different from my own. And that really kind of helped remind me that, like, especially again in this moment, that there is this sort of undercurrent of connection that you can find with people who are different from you.
And what about you, Stanley?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that the shortlist does is kind of curate the films, you know, and there are 138 films on the first list, you know, and it's just overwhelming, you know, it's like 138, whoa, okay, you know, I can't do that. But, you know, if you say, okay, there's 15 films, and, you know, somebody thought that these were 15 of the best films. Well, I can watch those, you know, and all the films that everybody's saying, you know, are amazing. And for every film, you see why, you know, it's on the list. And you know, it's just a real pleasure to kind of have that curated for me and say, you know, these are what somebody thinks are the top films, and so that you know, I can watch them. And then that's just as a viewer, not as a filmmaker.
And how about you, Robert?
Well, I mean, RJ started this by so brilliantly breaking down everyone's film and so kindly. But I will say, but RJ's film is just like all the films on this call, on this meeting. It's stories that you feel like you already maybe know, and then you don't know anything about them, right? Like I just remember feeling in The Rescue, just it turns out drowning is my biggest fear. So which I knew kind of in the back of my head, but watching that film, I was like, oh, that's my biggest fear. So seeing that executed on a cinematic level is so powerful. And then there's films like Ascension, Jessica Kingdon's amazing film, which is also shortlisted, or Fayadai, which is Jessica Bashir's amazing film. And both of those films really stand out to me because they're new voices telling documentary stories in different ways. And the fact that they are also being brought into the shortlist conversation is extraordinary. You know, they're just exciting filmmakers. I mean, I'm thrilled to be on this call with everybody, and just those two filmmakers specifically, I'm just so excited to see, you know, in some ways they were coming outside of, you know, mainstream documentary thinking in order to make their radically individualistic films. Specifically, Jessica Bashir worked 10 years on making Fayadai, and she taught herself the language of editing this film together. And I've never seen anything like it. And it took me in places that I couldn't believe. And I know for sure 10 years ago, that film's not getting shortlisted. I mean, it's just not. It's because, you know, and I'm really proud of us as a documentary branch because
2 years ago.
Yeah,
it's not getting
sure.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, you know, when Hale County got nominated, I couldn't even believe how great that was that Hale County got nominated. It's probably one of the most radical films to ever be nominated for an Oscar in any category ever. So the fact that us as a doc branch, like, I'm proud of what we've done with picking these films, honestly, because we're expanding the conversation.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining this panel, and we wish you all the best during this awards season. Thank you so much for joining us all on Meet the Experts.